Hello and welcome to SweetSpotDFS. This is a review video for the 2020 Charles Schwab Challenge, where Daniel Berger is the winner. He won in a playoff over Colin Morikawa because Colin Morikawa can't putt. As great of a golfer as that kid is, his putting is atrocious. He can stick it to like 3 feet, 5 feet, 7 feet, and not make the putt. I mean, if this kid could putt, he would have been nearly 25 under for this tournament, but he couldn't make any putts. Not to take anything away from Daniel Berger. Daniel Berger has had like 20 some rounds of golf under par, consecutive rounds of golf under par. So he was coming into this with some really good recent form. And in all honesty, you look at the leaderboard, which I'll pull up soon. A lot of great golfers at the top. And golfers actually had good recent form before the pandemic came about. So we'll look into that. We'll talk about that. What I first want to do is bring up, actually, before getting into the video, I almost forgot about this. If you want to watch this video in a faster speed, you have the opportunity to do that. On YouTube, if you're on desktop, hover your mouse somewhere over the screen. You're going to see a gear icon down here somewhere. Drill down on that, find playback speed. I recommend 1.5, but play around with it, figure out what you like. If you're on mobile, you're going to see that at the top right corner. You're going to see 3 dots that make a vertical line. It's the vertical ellipses. Drill down on that, playback speed. I'll also have timestamps in the description so you can get to whatever part of the video that you want to listen to. Okay. I have the kind of like the player pool criteria that I was going off of when I was constructing lineups. We wanted to find golfers that had some course history. It didn't matter if it was good or bad. We wanted a mix of everything, basically. I didn't really quite look in that before making this video, so we'll explore that together. We wanted golfers with overall bent grass, like decent overall bent grass, and we're going to find that that actually mattered. So that definitely played a huge factor into it. I should have crossed out shots gained tee to green. I forgot to do that, but I was not looking at that, so please do, or just disregard that. And then the last 2 were the bucket scores that I go over in all of my lineup construction videos. Really, I mean, the last year 1s paid out, but the last year 2s did not. It was close, like it was really close, and you'll see that. But it didn't pan out. It didn't work out. I mean, it was by a stroke. It didn't work out. So, we'll go ahead and we'll look at that. Let me go ahead, throw up the spreadsheet. I have the results page up. And so you can see Daniel Berger, Colin Morikawa, you know, the rest of the golfers there on top of the leaderboard. One thing I want to note is I think it was in the preview video, if not it was the lineup construction video, I had said that I was expecting the scores to be low, primarily because I figured to make compelling golf, we would want, you know, like, we're more than likely golf was going to bring in some new viewers. And it's fun to see low scores more than it is high scores. That was my whole reasoning behind it. Well, the reasoning that the commentators gave were, it was really warm. This tournament's usually played earlier in the year, and now that it's a little bit later, the temperature's down in basically Dallas, Texas, Fort Worth, Texas, pretty warm. So with bent grass greens, if you've ever golfed on bent grass, I have, they have to water the greens quite a bit. So they have to be soft. And a lot of times you'll overwater it, and you can't really allow it to go to like US Open conditions, because if you were to do that, they'd dry out and you would lose the greens throughout the tournament. So they were pretty receptive, and they responded very well. So golfers could control their spin, that kind of thing. When that happens, low scores can happen. So that was pretty much what the commentators gave. Regardless, I should say, it still panned out the way we wanted it, the way that we kind of forecasted it. The one thing I want you also to note is, like, look how many golfers were at 10 under. We had 18 golfers at 10 under. You don't see that in any of the other years this tournament was played. Really, it was close, like in 2018. We also found that in basically 2015, where we had 18 golfers at 8 under or better, but we didn't, like, the winner was at 15 under, this one was at 12. So really we had much lower scores this year. which made for compelling golf. You know, it was really fun to watch this tournament. I'm going to go ahead and bring up, basically, I'll go over the optimal lineup in the Millie Maker winning lineup. Now, I never went over the recent form tab during the lineup construction video because there really wasn't recent form. You know, we didn't have a tournament for three months. That's kind of what this disclaimer at the top here is. And I usually just go back the last 7 weeks. That's as far back as I will ever go with recent form. And obviously we didn't have a tournament within the last 7 weeks, so we didn't have any recent form. However, when you look at the recent form as I populated it, the last full tournament anyone played was the Arnold Palmer Invitational, the API. And when you see at the top 10 here, top 10 golfers, 4 golfers had finished top 20 in that tournament. And 1 golfer was 24th. So really, 5 golfers in that tournament were top 24. So recent form was good. Like, if this was the last week score, because I never had that goes with my bucket scores, I wonder if we would want to look at something like that. I mean, if we went back, already 2019 didn't play out that way. Sure, like, who knows? I guess if we did the full analysis, there was enough. We might have been able to pick 2 golfers that had good recent form, but either way, there were 4 golfers that had good recent form, like really good recent form. And even if you look at Daniel Berger's last tournament, that was a Honda Classic. Gary Woodland's last tournament was the Honda Classic as well. Sung Jae Im is down there. We had golfers with good recent form. Maybe not so much Bubba, and definitely not Justin Rose, but this also gave Justin Rose enough time to figure out his game because he was doing pretty terrible throughout the beginning of the year. I do have the points populated over here on the right side. I'm not going to talk about anything else that's on the spreadsheet. We can go ahead and talk about the optimal lineup and the Millie Maker winning lineup. The optimal lineup. Oh shoot! Here, let me do something really quick, guys. If you ever wanted to know how I figure this out, or basically how this spreadsheet is created, this is essentially how it's done right here. We'll go ahead and make that into a dollar amount. Do the same thing with the Millie Maker lineup. I know, super professional. I should have gotten all of this done prior to, but I didn't have the time. I'm not going to make that excuse, but regardless. So here we go. That's crazy. Once again, the winning lineup in the big GPP used all $50,000 of the salary. Optimal lineup used $49,400, and the Millie Maker scored 619.5 points. The optimal would have been 668.5. We can go ahead and just basically test that out. So basically all the little tick marks here, that would be your optimal lineup. The color in the blue, that would be the Millie Maker. So as I hover over these, I know you're not going to see it, but you guys can pause, do the math. That's 668.5. Basically in Google Sheets, where I'm located is where the average, the functions that you want, like sum, average, that kind of thing, will show up. So 668.5. Trying to find the rest of them here, and then there's the Millie Maker lineup, 619.5. So there was, a lot of money still left on the table, nearly $50 left on the table, or 50 points left on the table. I'm sorry. In order to get the optimal lineup. So I'm going to go ahead and go to the DK page because I also have populated this. So now I added 2 columns here. One is the fantasy points that they scored, or the DK points. Actually, I'm going to do that right now. DK points. The other one's the Millie Maker percentage. It's just their ownership percentage. Really, Jason Kokrak was not owned whatsoever. Justin Rose, very low owned, $9,000 guy. Bubba Watson, also very low owned. But here you go. Like we could try to figure out points. I'm not really gonna get into every different scenario. What I want to do is use my bucket system as a way to figure out if we would have been able to beat the Millie Maker lineup. So 618.5 is what we're getting at. Here is what the rules that we had. In this column, in column N, we wanted the last year bucket 1 score. We wanted 2 of them. We also wanted 2 last year bucket 2s. So really our best bet is Jordan Spieth, which if you follow my Twitter, I just said I got on Jordan Spieth quite a bit just because it worked out that way. His $8,000 price point was really easy to fit in a lot of lineups. He was a last year 2 that I was looking for quite a bit. It was between him and Tony Finau, which both made the cut. So if you would have rostered both of those guys, the best last year 2s, you would have done okay. I mean, Tony scored 83, which is 2 points less than Corey Connors, but at his price, probably not something we were looking for. However, let's go ahead and try to figure out some golfers that we could actually roster that fit in under that mold. So if we cherry pick this a little bit, we go with Colin Morikawa, Jason Kokrak. So we have our last year 1s covered now. We need to find our last year 2s. Let's say we went with Jordan Spieth, and then maybe we went with Peter Uihlein because we just liked Peter Uihlein. Now, hold on. I just saw something. We'll get to it, but I'm not going to bring it up now. Now, basically, we have nearly $20,000 to work with. We do want the winner regardless. So 7,700. Now we're left with 11,700, which means we could roster Rory. We could roster we couldn't roster Rory. We would have been $100 away from that. We could have rostered Rahm, which that wouldn't have worked out. So like we wanted Xander. What would that have done? It would have left $2,100 on the table. That would have been really difficult to swallow. However, this follows the type of last year bucket scores that we want to do. I'm going to eventually just build lineups without looking at salaries, because when I look at salaries, I get into my head like I have $2,100 left. Like I'm not going to do 2,100. Like I would have moved up from Jason Kokrak from 7,200 to somebody else. So I guess if we were to do that, let's do like a realistic one, right? So I have $9,300 left. Well, we go to Patrick Reed. Simple. How many points would you have lost out on? We wouldn't have. Okay, hold on. Let's do this. Go here. We go to Patrick Reed, Jordan Spieth, and we picked Peter Uihlein, right? 645 points. So we would have won first place. We would have been 23 points or 21 points behind. Yeah, 23 points behind the optimal lineup. So just constructing a lineup based off of the bucket system, it would have gotten us there. And really, I guess we could take out Patrick Reed and go ahead put it in Peter Uihlein. Go ahead put in Rory Sabatini instead of Peter Uihlein. And then what do we have left? Oh, I'm sorry. I guess I don't know. Go ahead and click these. Unclick those. So we have $8,400 left, which makes it a bit trickier. Yeah, that's a bummer. I mean, we could go with Bubba Watson, but we have $1,200 on the table. I wouldn't have felt comfortable with that at all. So we did have a bucket score lineup that did score more than the first place lineup, but it didn't get to the optimal. Now the optimal lineup typically, I usually like to look at golfers inside the top 10 and base my bucket score off of that. Rory Sabatini and Peter Uihlein, if we went to the results page, like if we look at them, Sabatini's there, Uihlein's there, 10 under. They were 1 stroke behind the next, they would have finished inside the top 10, which would have really made the bucket system look good. So I'm not going to really take anything away from that, but we can also look at points. Like Peter Uihlein scored way more points. I shouldn't say way more, but he tied the points that Bubba Watson scored, and Bubba Watson was 7th place. So he was double the place, basically. He was 14th place. Scored the same amount of points as Bubba Watson. So it's definitely something to look into. Okay. The other thing I want to talk about when it comes to constructing lineups, or what we were looking at, is this tournament had at least 3 golfers that had the top. There were 3 golfers that were inside the top 20 for bent grass stats. There were 2 golfers inside the top 20 for proximity stats. There were 3 golfers inside the top 20 for around the green, and 3 golfers inside the top 20 for birdie or better. I went and I guess I can throw the filter up right now. So if I put the filter up, and let's go ahead and just hide a lot of this stuff. Actually, I'm going to hide from here. We'll hide all of this. So we'll bring up, I just want to show you guys what this looks like, okay? So if I were to go ahead and sort by bent, minus the top 2 here, oh, I should have color coded this. I'll do that next time when we come around. Except for the top 2, because there are only 1 event for each of these. I put a capital B for the top 20. So this would be your top 20 golfers. Your top 20 golfers with bent grass stats. So you see that capital B there. Now I did that with every other stat. So capital B means bent grass. A lower B means birdie or better. A capital P stands for proximity. A capital A stands for approach. As we look at golfers that we wanted to choose from, let's do that. Okay, so we want 3 lower Bs. Let's just go ahead and pick those golfers right now. I'm gonna go with Daniel Berger, Patrick Reed, and Gary Woodland. Now Patrick Reed and Gary Woodland now take my last year number 1s, last year 1 buckets. So I don't have to look for a 1 anymore. If another one ends up getting on our lineup, not a big deal. But then I also want to find 2 golfers with approach. We're going to go ahead and just pick Jordan Spieth, and might as well just pick Peter Uihlein. I know it's cherry picking because he's at the top, but we could have went from Uihlein to Harold Varner. So like that would have worked out. Now I'm still needing to find another last year 2. I have $9,400 left. Why not throw Tony Finau in there? So now we have 1 lower B, 2, 3 lower Bs. So we got those covered. And they don't cover any of the big Bs. So the bent grass. But Jordan Spieth goes ahead and takes care of a bent grass and approach. Peter Uihlein takes care of an approach. I shouldn't say approach, around the green. And Tony Finau now covers the bent grass and around the green. So now we have 2 bent grass golfers, 3 birdie or better, and 1. We have 1 proximity. 2 around the green, 2 bent grass and around the green. So that makes 3 around the green. So like we covered the 3 around the green. We didn't cover 3 bent. We only have 2 bent. We covered 3 birdie or better, and we have 0 proximity guys that we ended up choosing from. Now we could have picked Sung J M, but for his price, probably wouldn't have worked out. I know this is kind of convoluted, but I wanted to see how this would have worked out. I want to see if I'm going to go ahead and take down first place again, and unfortunately, I would not have. So this would have scored 596. Once again, the top score for the Millie Maker was 619. It was close, don't get me wrong, but that was something kind of foolish to go for. So probably not going to think about this for next year. And I wanted to talk about this through the review video. So if you watched the lineup construction video, you would have saw that it did not work out. But these are the avenues that I'm kind of looking at, trying to get a little bit more of a unique edge when it comes to building lineups. I really think about the last year. I really think about the bucket score being a really good, or the bucket system being a good process to pick lineups from. Could have landed us on Morikawa and Kokrak very easily. I didn't play any Kokrak. I guess I was more enamored by finding other golfers that I liked more. I really liked Morikawa. I liked Morikawa and who else? There were 2 golfers that I was really high on. Let me see. I can check by my ownership. That was Jordan Spieth, I think, 35%. Sung Jae, okay, 35% for Sung Jae, 26% for Colin Morikawa, 29% from who? Tony Finau. So as you can see, I did play the bucket system quite a bit. Scotty Scheffler, that was it. It was Scheffler and Morikawa. Those were golfers that I really liked, that I was really on. And then I didn't play a lot of good golfers. Like Rahm, I played a lot of Rahm. I played a lot of, who is this guy? A lot of Jason Day. Oof, just brutal. So anyways, yeah, probably got a little too caught up in trying to get like the swing stats stuff down. You know, I'm not a huge proponent for swing stats, but I wanted to see what kind of weight that pulled. I want to talk about a couple other things. So I'm not going to go through the swing stats. Actually, you know, I will after. But I'm going to go ahead and start talking about tee times. What I have highlighted in yellow are golfers that share a tee time with another one highlighted in yellow. So like Colin Morikawa played with Bubba Watson. So that's something to consider. Like I make it kind of a big deal on Twitter, like consider pairing golfers up that are in the same group. And you can see, so we had Bubba Watson and Colin Morikawa playing together. We had Justin Rose and Bryson DeChambeau golfing together. Jordan Spieth and Justin Thomas golfing together. And then Abraham Ancer and Rory Sabatini. Now, really what you could do is like, let's make a lineup out of these guys. Okay, so let's go ahead and put Rose together with DeChambeau. Let's just see what the price would be. And then Bubba Watson, we can pair him up with Colin Morikawa. So we got the top 4 guys, like that works. So now we have 14,600 to work with. We can't do Jordan and JT, but we could 49,900. So we could pair up all of these guys except for in the middle here. Let's see what the point total would have been for that. 594.50. So you wouldn't have won the Millie Maker that way either. But that's an interesting way to make lineups. Obviously, you would have made some money in that contest, not a lot, but it's a fun way to try to, you know, line up theory craft basically. But definitely worth thinking about in the future because you could have easily got on to, I mean, I guess I wouldn't actually proclaim like you would, like if you were to have Rose and DeChambeau, the price of those 2 together kind of limits you on the golfers you could have picked. You obviously want first place, so let's just do these guys. And then how much do we have left? 6,900. Yeah, that's not gonna work out. So too many expensive guys. We couldn't do DeChambeau. We would want to do Justin Rose because he was in the optimal lineup. Yeah. So I mean, you can look at it a couple different ways. These golfers obviously played off of each other, so maybe you just go with one of them. You know, like okay, both of them are probably going to do well, but it'd probably be more beneficial if I just chose one, the one that I think is going to actually do better. But if you're then creating lineups, maybe you go in one lineup, you go with like a Morikawa, and then in another lineup, you go with a Bubba Watson. And then maybe in another lineup, you put the 2 together. So now you have a little bit more exposure to the different outcomes that could happen. That might be actually a pretty decent way. And really, Morikawa and Bubba were on the optimal lineup, so that would have been a decent pairing to go together. I personally don't like anyone paired with Bubba Watson. I know when he was younger, he was more of an asshole. Maybe because he's a little older, easier to play with. Who knows? If you guys want to look at the odds and ownership or official world golf ranking, go ahead and pause the video whenever. Look at that stuff. I'm not going to go over it. I'm going to go ahead and hide this. I want to get the least or the less amount of columns to look at some of this other stuff. So I want to compare fantasy points per game. So what I had done, and you would have saw this during the lineup construction video, I kind of created these other columns just to see the expected return on their salary as well as their expected return on their points per game, and see if they exceed them, because that's where we're going to find value. And I really wanted to see if the exceeded weighted would have shown up. So basically what this was, it's their fantasy points per game compared to the what I weighted the Charles Schwab challenge to be. So I thought it was going to lower scores, like there were going to be lower scores here, which 119.5. Now the average score for this tournament was 121 for the winning score. So Daniel Berger actually scored less than that. So it's weighted a little bit lower. I think the average first place finish, like overall, is around like 130. I think 130 to 135, something like that. So I weighted this down. I weighted this tournament down. So I would have thought the points per game would have been lower regardless. So what I tried to do was, how do I want to describe this? Okay, so the CSC weighted was looking at their salary and seeing how many points I thought they needed to score to get back to value. Essentially, that's what that was. And if their points per game exceeded that, that obviously means they exceeded the weighted. For this tournament, though, my salary expectation would have been Daniel Berger needed to score 94 points in order to bring back value for first place. So as I look at all of this, it looks as if everybody from here on up, nope. I'm gonna have to look into this. I don't really want to try to figure out or guess how I feel about this. But Sung Jae would have shown he didn't. I suppose he did exceed value based off of the Charles Schwab Classic, but the actual salary expectation I would have had of him would have been 101 points, which he did not get to. Jordan Spieth actually exceeded expectations pretty handily. Never mind. Patrick Reed did. Bubba Watson did. Jason Kokrak did. Bryson didn't for his price. Schauffele did. And then everyone else up at the top did. So interesting to look at. I really don't have an opinion so much on this right now. I just wanted to see, based off of their price, how many DraftKings points they actually scored, and their placement. I wanted to see all of those things combined to see, is it worth it to play someone around 10,000 or above, or is it better to play someone in the 9K range and go from there? Obviously, you need the first place no matter what, and that can obviously be anybody. Like Bryson could have gotten into the playoff very easily, and then he'd have been an expensive golfer that got first that you would have had to have rostered in order to get the optimal lineup and to win a tournament, but obviously that didn't happen. Definitely just interesting things to look at. I mean, he basically almost returned value if you were to use this as, times, take out the last two zeros, and his value, basically a neutral value being the value of 1, essentially. So if he scored 101 points, he would be bringing back value of 1. This kind of goes back to football and trying to figure out what value is there. How many points does he need to score in order to get to exceed his value for salary? And I would say 101, but he scored 100. This the CSC weighted I had was 89. Yeah, let me look into this a little bit more, and maybe I'll add it to the next spreadsheet. But yeah, I don't couldn't tell you right now how I feel about it. We can go ahead and just go really quickly. I'm going to actually color code this really quickly. Okay. So I'm going to go ahead and sort through these. Go ahead and pause. But, you know, we were talking about overall bent. These guys didn't have a lot of events under their belt, so I'm not going to include them. But you can see the majority of golfers who did well had bent grass. I'm just highlighting the guys who missed the cut just to see what that number is. So 8 golfers missed the cut. 6 golfers inside the top 20 for bent grass finished inside the top 10. I mean, but technically the top 20. That's kind of what we're looking for. And then we had a bunch of 30, like 20 to 30 place finishes, like quite a bit. So yeah, that worked out pretty decent. So bent grass was definitely something to look at. The top 10 bent grass percentage, again, you find the same golfers we were basically just looking at up there. I'm going to open this back up to everybody. Top 20, or not top 20, but 2020 bent grass stats leading into this. Again, we got a bunch of people up at the top, so definitely something to look at going forward. One thing I forgot to look at was just we wanted some course history. So let me pull this back open. Colin Morikawa, first timer. Patrick Reed, or no, Bubba Watson, Gary Woodland, Justin Thomas apparently are first timers, but everyone else had some course history. Not everyone had good course history that was at the top. I'd say maybe Justin Rose being the only one, and Patrick Reed. I would say that too. And then Jordan Spieth obviously had the best in this field. Peter Uihlein now finishes a 14th place finish after finishing 13th the year before. So that's something to also look at. But yeah, just wanted to bring up the course history to talk about. I'm going to cruise through these next ones. So we're just going to look. I'm actually going to take out. Look at that. Everyone who did not have stats missed the cut. Something that's interesting. So we go ahead and look at this. Wow. Tee to green actually did matter. Believe it or not. Like you look at all the results. Everyone that's in light green, that's top 20 finishing spot. That's quite a bit. 9 golfers. All right, so I guess tee to green was something we needed to look at. Off the tee, wow. Lots of golfers again. So this is completely different than last year's tournament. Approach played a huge factor. Around the green did not play a huge factor. So, oof. That was not the right stat to look at. That just means like every year is different with stats. So and this is heading into the tournament, by the way. This isn't like what happens at the tournament as other people basically analyze and research this. So around the green, definitely something. This year it didn't work out. It wasn't a big deal. And I wonder if that has a lot to do with it being at the time of the year that this tournament was played. Probably. Putting stats, there's quite a few people at the top for putting stats, or at the top 20 leaderboard that had good putting stats. Usually you don't see that. Green and reg percentage, quite a bit. Let's go ahead, and proximity was another one that we were looking at. There's only 2 golfers, Joel Damon and Sungjae M. So proximity was not something to look at. Birdie or better, we had quite a few people. 7 in total finished inside the top 20 for birdie or better. Let's go ahead and just look at some of the other stats, like the driving stats that I really don't ever go through. So driving distance, you had a few people up there. Bryson, Cameron Champ, Gary Woodland. I mean, we had 6 total golfers that were in the top 20 for driving distance. In the field, finished inside the top 20. Driving accuracy did not a stat that really mattered. Jim Furyk did well for a long period of time and then just fell off. Good drive percentage. We had a few people up there, including the winner. Bogey avoidance. So here are your top guys with bogey avoidance. Not, I mean, it's pretty decent. 6 golfers inside the top 20 for bogey avoidance stats this week. That did well. So yeah, that's pretty much it. I don't have anything else to really talk about. It was fun kind of looking at this. There's some stuff that I've added that I haven't added before. I'm going to continue adding the percentage for the GPP I'm in, as well as the DK points, because it kind of comes from the same spreadsheet. And then yeah, I think that's all I wanted to talk about. Let me double check. Yeah. That would be it, folks. Thank you for watching. Leave a like, comment, subscribe, all that good stuff, and I'll see you during the preview video for the RBC Heritage. All right, bye.